Welcome to the Soul Path Sessions podcast with Deborah Meints-Pierson and Brenda Littleton. Brenda is an educator and counselor rooted in Jungian and eco-psychology. She helps her clients understand the importance of the mind, body, spirit, and earth relationship for healing. Deborah is a licensed psychotherapist and has been trained in traditional and sacred psychology, exploring from the ground up what makes our human experience meaningful, wholesome, and enlightening. Deborah and Brenda invite you to accompany them on a soul path journey as they explore the possibilities of living a more soulful life as therapists, seekers, and lovers of fate.
Welcome back to Soul Path Sessions. I'm Brenda Littleton with Deborah Meints, and today we're going to take a look at numerology. It's a practice that I don't have much experience with, although I know my mother did a lot of numerology and I was raised with it. But the actual mechanics, the art, the science, and the practice and the application, I'm going to have Deborah walk us through and maybe even do a case study on me.
Yeah, that'll make it more fun, don't you think? Yeah. Everybody get your pencils out because you're going to want to be doing this for yourself, I have a feeling. It's fun.
So walk us through, what is numerology and the science behind it?
Well, it's a study of numbers to begin, and it's very ancient. And like all mystic sciences, it's the other meaning of something. So we all know the numbers, 1 through 10. And I was content with that. I want to just kind of back up. I was content with the numbers, just numbers. Being numbers, I love numbers. I've always loved numbers. Counting has always been a favorite activity. But about when I was in my 40s, I remember walking into a Barnes & Noble bookstore with my daughter, Zoe, and she had to get a book on something. And I was just minding my own business when an inner voice said to me, "You got to get a book on numerology." And I went, no, because I really hated astrology, numerology. I thought it was hocus pocus, carnival-esque projection. So I just stood there and it got more insistent. I'm like, get a book on numerology. I'm like, ugh. And finally the internal pressure got so strong while my daughter was looking for her book that I went over and I got like numerology for complete idiots, fools, believers, whatever.
Numerology for dummies.
Yes. I mean, for complete idiots because I just was so mad. And, so I went home and I read the book, and of course I'm kind of scholarly, so I outlined it. I did my own numerology, and then I went, okay, this is creepy. And then, because it was so spot on, and then we went on vacation, and I did my husband, my daughter, everybody I knew, all their birthdays, cataloged them, and went down the rabbit hole. Then I got Dan Millman's book, The Life You Were Born to Live, which is stellar. I read and outlined the whole thing. It's all done in orange, green, and yellow. And then I secretly and privately did all of my clients' numerology so I could help them more. And after 10 years of secret divining, literally 10 years, because, I'm a psychotherapist licensed in California. I do not want to come across like a carnival barker or a gypsy or something, although, So I didn't reveal, but I did heal. And
Great tagline.
Yeah. Right. It didn't matter if I told people what I was doing.
Great tagline.
Yeah. Don't reveal, you can heal.
Yeah.
And of course, I've said before on other podcasts, my grandmother was a psychic, a channeler, a medium. I grew up thinking that was completely normal. And she did the destiny cards, which later on I would come to know. So this was my first doorway. And
so you start with the birthday?
Yes. So it's a simple enough thing to do. What I'd like to do is start with what it is and then go through what the meaning of the 9 numbers are.
Great.
And then we'll do a little demo on Brenda.
So if like I know people that have a certain number that they really identify with. Like I really identify with 5.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
So this will give insight to our listeners as to perhaps why they have a particular number that they resonate with.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I mean, there's so much more to this than I can present in a 20-minute format, but the number 5 will figure in powerfully to your life once I tell you the meaning of it.
Okay.
And this, so we all know we start with the number 1. Let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. So the number 1 is the number of creativity and confidence. It is the single, okay? There's just one and done. In a deck of playing cards, it's the ace. And what it stands for is creativity and confidence. So all of the numbers have a resonance with internal qualities, okay? And it's just a straight line. And that's the positive nature of the 1. The negative nature of the 1 is the opposite, insecurity and withdrawal. So creativity and confidence. I will return to this. If I see somebody, for instance, with a 1 or 10 life path, they will struggle with those things, generally speaking, because the life path that we'll talk about in a minute is not what you're good at. It's what you're here to master in this lifetime. So we'll go over the numbers.
The lessons. So confidence versus...
Confidence and creativity
versus the
insecurity and withdrawal. That would be the negative aspect of the 1.
Got it.
For instance, I have a February 10th birthday. That is my personality card. If you are born on a 1 or a 1-0, that means that in your personality, which is not really your soul, but how you present to the world, you may come across as very confident. Okay, like 1-0. You may be really insecure behind all that, but a 1-0 indicates
they're presenting persona.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So we'll do birthday numbers. That's kind of fun. The number 2 is represented by 2 lines, is cooperation and balance. That's what it means. You and me. So it's when the 1 adds 1, you get 2. And so it's all about cooperation and balance. Now that is the goal, but because those are really difficult things to balance, we tend to fall into over cooperating or codependency when the number 2 figures in powerfully in our lives, and being out of balance.
So enmeshment.
Yeah, over and under cooperation. Exactly.
Got it.
And being out of balance with people. The number 2 really is seeking harmony between you and me. Imagine me and you. I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the one you love and hold them tight. Happy together. That's the theme song of the 2. Now, I'm a 2, so therefore, that's what I do. And most of us have 2. Many people have 2, and will return life challenges in their numerology journey. Okay.
3.
Number 3 is represented by the triangle. In sacred geometry, which is another way to view the numbers themselves, are in shapes. And this is all about emotional expression and sensitivity. So we have the number 2 plus 1. We got an extra. So now we can make the triangle. And the triangle is very, very sacred. There's the Trinity. There's the tension of the opposites plus the 1 at the top, which is holding yes and no. And then at the very top of the triangle is the divine light shining down on us. In its negative aspect, in its positive aspect, I should say, emotional expression is childlike, wonder, creativity, joy. Emotional expression, I mean, come on. It's, comedy and drama and all that. But in the same way, that sensitivity can turn into childishness, babyishness, tantrum throwing, out of control temper, crazy making, over excessive, or withdrawal. So when I see a 3 person, they tend to understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, so their goal would be to become more confident and competent, more mature.
Yeah, to use that sensitivity wisely and to learn how to emotionally regulate.
Yeah.
Like one of my 3 clients said, my emotions are like a sled on the top of a slippery hill. It takes one tiny push and I'm at the bottom of the ice chute.
Yeah.
And so I helped her with some skills.
There's no self-regulating.
She needed self-regulation. She's brilliant, but she needed that because 3 is a really tough number if you're facing it. A lot of people have 3-0, and anything that's exponentialized with a 0 is 10 times stronger.
Amplified.
Amplified. So you have a 30th birthday, you may...
Yeah, 40s, 50s. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a personality number, but if
Yeah.
it's your life path number, which we will circle back to, it's going to be more of a thing. So let's move on to 4. 3, you add 1, you get a nice stable base. It's a box.
A square.
A square. And that is stability and balance. So many people with a 4 life path, they actually have a sort of boxy appearance, like a square.
Interesting.
Solidness to them. We all love stability and balance. The thing about the 4, it's like a Ford truck. It's just reliable as hell. So the number 4 has always been about that, and putting things in order, doing things step by step. Don't skip steps. Follow the simple instructions. That's the number 4.
So they can get stuck, though, too.
Well, the problem with the 4 in as a life path challenge is there's this little issue with the 5 that enters in, and they can get stuck. That's true, but because it's a challenge, instability and being out of balance is a challenge. You see, if you have a 4 life path number, it would seem like you'd be so, like, square. Hey, man, it's hip to be square. But the problem is the opposite's going to be your challenge. So you always want to look at it like as the opposite: instability, out of balance. I don't want to do things according to Hoyle.
So we can have phases in our life as well, going through spots that amplify or focus on these aspects.
Yes. So
Okay.
when we're doing the math on this, I'm going to return to this. We're going to see what our life path number is, and it's going to be one of these exponentialized or doubled. Okay. And you'll be able to see a little bit better.
So 5.
Now 5 is really the human form.
Oh.
Like Da Vinci's 5-pointed man, right?
A pentacle.
Yes, exactly. So it's the freedom and discipline is the challenge of the 5. 5 is the number that's like the square with an added leg, a table with another leg. What are you going to do with that extra leg? Well, that's your freedom and discipline. So freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And what happens with 5 people a lot is they're usually scintillating, fun, love their freedom, and discipline is the other aspect. It's a balancing aspect, and they tend to go one way or the other too much. They can be so disciplined, there's no fun. They can just, there aren't that many that are like that, I've noticed. The other one is that there's so much freedom that nothing ever gets created for very long. They can make great salespeople. They love new ideas. They love the innovative. They love to travel. They just really love their freedom. So when I'm working with somebody who has this as a life challenge, it's always balancing that so they don't get out of balance with too much discipline, not enough freedom, or too much freedom, not enough discipline. It's the seesaw.
So number 6.
Number 6 is actually the Philosopher's Stone. It's made by putting a triangle inside of a triangle, like the Star of David.
Okay.
So you have a 6-pointed star, and it means vision and acceptance is the goal. And so when you look at the meaning of one triangle points down at the earth, the other triangle points up at the heavens. This has always been considered a very sacred, as evinced by its use in the Judaic tradition, symbol for as above, so below. The words vision and acceptance mean that you have to look both up and down to have good vision. You have to see what's going on in the earth, and you look up. You look expanded beyond your own consciousness. And this is a challenging one because the vision can turn into perfectionism. I'm a 6 life path. I know all about it. Like, I wouldn't do the podcast because, it'll never be perfect enough. I have the vision of it. And I can get so many visions, but the practical application can be difficult. So I have to be careful about perfectionism, which is a hole I can fall into.
So the acceptance part is also comes from the stability of like if you can see and you foresee, that what's coming in the sense of not so much predestiny, but that there's a comfort zone, there's a comfort level of competence and acceptance involved.
It's going to be what you strive for with the
Right.
6 of life path. It's very karmic. The number 6 is connected to karma. It's connected to family. It's a pregnant number if you look
Okay.
at it.
Yeah.
It's so but people with 6 life paths tend to call everybody brother, sister, family.
Okay.
And the acceptance part is we have to look at all angles. So if something happens difficult to a 6 life path, it's the number that's more likely to say what good can come of this.
Right.
Because
Find the lesson.
Yeah, find the lesson, because karma's going to hit us.
Right.
So it's a number of fate, destiny,
Cool.
balancing.
7.
7, a beautiful number 7. The 7 sacraments, seventh heavens. The symbol for this is the rainbow.
Oh.
It's the rainbow bridge, and it's the number of rest. The colors of the rainbow. It's beautiful. I get chills when I'm thinking about it. The number 7 is all about trust and openness. After so much activity, we need a bridge. And if you ever meet a 7 person, they will tend to be quiet, and they will tend to listen more than they speak. And they will have a restful nature. It's also the card of faith.
So it seems like a sense of vibration, a sense of peace. I mean, when I see a rainbow, it's just, I get awestruck.
Right.
It's like, wow, this is right here.
Yes.
And I don't often get to see it. So it's here. It's going to go real soon. Pay attention.
Exactly. So the 7, like the 7th day of the week, we rest.
Ah, okay.
So this idea that the 7 is all about rest. The challenge for the 7 person is trust and openness. So very often when you meet a 7 person, they keep their cards close to their vest. A 7 person will be somebody that you think you know, but then the next time you meet them, it's like a stranger sometimes. You really have to win they're like the rabbit. You have to really win their trust. And it's not so easy. It's difficult for them. Many of them can be passive aggressive in the negative because they don't trust you.
So
It's their challenge.
So the openness, the opposite of openness then would be a sense of closure, apprehension,
Retreat.
retreat.
I'm not, I really don't want to deal with people. They're not trustworthy. I'm a rock. I'm an island.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. So I think we all have these qualities. If it's a life path challenge for you, it's going to be much more accentuated.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to move forward to the powerful 8.
Yeah.
8 on its side is the symbol for infinity in the
Right.
Egyptian. And it stands for power and abundance. So if you can picture the 8 right side up as 2 circles, one on top of each other.
I do see it that way.
Yeah. So the top one in our culture, in the West, is power over abundance. Like if I have a lot of power, so if you could picture it like an hourglass, the top one would be the power. And if I do a lot of things powerfully, then I'll get abundance. The sands will go to
Yeah.
the bottom. Now in the mystic tradition, you flip it.
Yeah.
And so you see the spiritual abundance as feeding the earthly needs.
I recently had a client saying, I thought I was going to be expanding my outer power to receive inner abundance, but this whole year has transferred itself so that I've received more inward power, and that will achieve outward abundance.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So when a person's working that correctly, like the person you're talking about, they find that the power comes through them, is part of them, but it doesn't belong to them. It's universal energy.
And it's the affect. It's not the abundance part and the power. Again, I always see the sense of ego versus soul, and any handicaps or limitations. It's the ego getting stuck, and that what carries it through and what allows the sense of growth is soul seeping in and taking some burden off that outward manifestation of the ego. And
So right on.
Yeah.
In fact, when you were saying this, you were making the infinity
I
sign with your hand,
yeah.
like you're just going like, here we go, everything serves. And it's like when we surrender, and we put the surrender on the top to the abundance of universal intelligence that belongs to us, and we are the container, we are the container. And then what pours into the bottom serves serves the greater good.
That's so interesting. I used to have a sand hourglass.
Yeah.
And I would have that as my, session's over.
I love that. I love it. I would love to use something just like that. So when we forget spirit, what we do in the negative, what you'll see with a power person is they use power tools.
Yeah.
They may use methamphetamines to go faster.
Right.
I see a lot of 8 addicts. They override their body. They're scintillating. They're usually beautiful, powerful looking people, but they burn out because they have to use a lot of substances. They tend to treat people mean. They tend to confuse earthly gold for spiritual gold. So their bumper sticker is the one who dies with the most toys wins. And yet they come crashing into a therapist's office saying like, I've got 5 homes and 5 wives and a whole pocket of misery. Can you help me? I'm this and that. This is my ego. It's so big. And my toilet seat is gold. And I need some grounding. So 8s, when they crash and burn, are incredible at learning what the source of true abundance is, which is love.
Nice.
It's love.
Really nice.
It's always been love, and it always will be love. Yeah.
So then what's left over for 9?
Number 9. So 9 is the penultimate number. It's the number of integrity and wisdom. It's coming full circle. So integrous. So the symbol for 9 would be the circle. You can actually see that little circle with that line. It's the rope. It stands for rope in Egyptian.
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros, correctly. Yes, correct. The snake eating its own tail. So the 2 words that go with the number 9 are integrity and wisdom. This means to embrace everything that's happening to you and learn from it so you can have wisdom. The word wisdom is an ancient Old English word divided into 2. Wisdom, was V-I-S, turned into a W. That means vision. D-O-M is dominion. So you put vision and dominion, you then have knowledge. So what I see and I learn, I can learn from. So 9 people in the positive tend to give everything away. They're returning, like the Ouroboros, to themselves. They learn from their experiences. They're wise beyond all measure. And in the negative, it's crazy because this number has such a high calling that quite a few people don't ascend to it. And what they do is they go offline. There's nobody worse in my caseload than a 9 who's gone offline because they worry, they can't get out of their own way, there's negative Nellies, the sky is falling, they're the most worried, indecisive, lost souls who just don't accomplish much of anything. They recognize integrity, but they don't apply it. They'll do drugs, they'll be like, I'll just find them wandering in the desert and I'll go like, oh God, they got to be a 9.
So this is like a sidebar, but when I hear the Ouroboros, I used to do a lot of work with Ouroboros, and the idea is everyone talks about how it's a circle and it contains, but then to me it's like, well, that's a very clear boundary. So when you've created an Ouroboros, you have a very clear boundary of not only what you're containing inside, but you're also denoting what is outside. You're not letting in your space all of that which is out there. So this would tie in with the 9, I would think, in the sense of containing your own integrity, your own and containing the wisdom and having a definitive circle.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm going to add that to my knowledge base because that's spot on. In fact, quite a few 9s give so much away, they have nothing left.
Right.
And you've got to use some wisdom to know what, don't just give things away.
And have boundaries.
Yeah. Don't give it all away. So the dark side is worry and addiction. When they get on the trail, there's some of those beautiful souls. I've worked with gang members that in the past who, when I knew they were a 9, I knew I could work with them.
Okay.
They got out of integrity. So do you want to play with
let's play.
Okay.
Let's play. I have, I know my mother did my numerology. She did all this when I was younger, but I it's one of my resistance. It's like, that was what I did when I was a child. So, I'd love to be reintroduced to the value because I know it's integral as far as understanding your own life, client life, dealing in couples. And also I would think that this would be useful and instrumental when you're starting a project and see the number in numerology for a project.
Oh, absolutely. For me, it is.
Yeah,
Because
good.
my 24/6 life path helps me a lot. So,
Okay. So what
yeah.
do you need from me?
Well, I just need your birthday.
Okay.
And I want everybody who's listening, take the time to get a pen, because you're going to be doing the math on yourself if you wish. It'll make it much more rich for you. So I'm going to ask Brenda, is her birth month, day, and year. And we're going to add those numbers up one at a time.
Okay. So May 5
That's a 5.
is 15.
Plus 1. Plus 5.
So is
Keep
it
going.
5 and then 10 and 11? That's
No.
2?
We're going to separate them out. We're just
Okay.
going to go 5 plus 1 plus 5
Plus 5
plus 1 plus 9
plus 5
5 plus 5. And when you add those numbers up, you get 31.
Okay.
Then you collapse that number and you put a slash and you collapse it into 4. So it'll be like a 31 over a 4, or yeah, there you go. So now,
Why over a 4?
well, because you collapse the 3 and the 1, and that's
get
your
it.
life path number.
It's 4.
Yeah. So what we do, if you can picture this now, if everybody's catching up, you can do this later, because I'm going to, for the interest of time, I'm going to move ahead with Brenda's stuff. And remember, the book, The Life You Were Born to Live by Dan Millman is the most excellent resource on all of the numerology books I have. So what we're going to look at is that the life path number, the 3 and the 1 in Brenda's life path, are like doors. They're beautiful doors. On one door, there's a 3, and the other door is a 1. And those two doors are going to have to be worked numerologically in order for Brenda to get to her 4. Okay? So we're going to start with the number 3. For Brenda, it's very, very important that she addresses her emotional expression and sensitivity. It might be said that Brenda, if she's not careful, would let her emotions get the best of her, and in the negative. We always want to look at the negative when we're doing the weakest point. We want it, and we want to use, we also want to address the gift. So if Brenda is using her artistic, which I know she does, emotional nature well, and not frittering away her time in tantrums and complaining, which would be a challenge for any 3 life path, not Brenda in particular, but I'm using Brenda as our guinea pig today. Yeah. The 3 is trying to master their emotions, which is a lifelong journey.
Yeah, because the compensation is to dismiss emotion and go for the rational, go for the intellect.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that if it's a compensation.
It's not real. Yeah, it's a compensation.
It's your path, Yeah. So the 1 door is all about creativity and confidence. It opens again to her life path. So in Brenda's life, it could be speculated that she has the potential for a lot of creativity. She may have struggled with confidence at times because that is the difficulty. Feeling blocked, not being able to get out of a creative block, and not feeling confident about herself might be the challenge. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Brenda. You can relate to that.
Well, it wasn't until I was 40 and living in a marriage where I was comfortable being creative, where I didn't have to sequester away to hide my creativity. It was part of the home. It was almost expected to be creative. And so the idea of having confidence through my creativity, I had garnered confidence through my business acumen, but I hadn't really allowed the creativity to be expressed until much in my midlife. And it was a struggle, and it's a great gift because it's a foundation now that is unwavering. I believe in not only my artistic creativity, but my writing creativity through being a professor and writing papers and present. It's just that it had to come, though. I mean, up until then, I had absolutely nobody wants to hear this.
Yeah,
nobody
that's
needs
the one
this.
challenge. Nobody wants the little demon in the ear.
Nobody needs this.
The critic.
Yeah.
Nobody wants it. Nobody will do it. So that's the one challenge. The confidence. You might see, somebody and you think they're so confident, but if they have the one challenge, that it was part of the curriculum, and I call it the divine curriculum. Pythagoras, who was one of the people who began this whole conversation about the interconnection of numbers and life path, talked about this being the school in ancient Greece. This is a school where you found out your numerology, then you knew your path. So for you, Brenda, you face the one, and I imagine, like in my path, I bounce back. I get kicked out the door quite a bit. Then I have to look at what did I not do right? Okay. And I know what my numbers are, so it helps me. Now, we're going to bust open those doors. We're going to actually open these beautiful, beautiful doors. Yeah, they're carved wooden doors. You can choose the kind of doors they are. And we have the lovely number 4 waiting for Brenda. And
we get the life path by adding those two numbers
Exactement.
together. Okay. So everyone at home, if you have their numbers and they add them together, and then the bottom part, that becomes their life path.
That's your life path, as Dan Millman is so good at explaining. Okay. So for Brenda, her number is 4, and that's all about, as you remember, the box, stability and balance. Now, if she's I'm going to talk about the negative because it'll help our listeners. Stability and balance would be the goal, but it would be a challenge at some point in Brenda's life because she wouldn't have chosen it. I mean, the idea here is that you choose your curriculum to master it while you're in soul, in form on the planet. So Brenda may have experienced times where she felt very unstable. She may have felt completely out of balance. And she may have skipped steps to get there. She might have jumped over and ignored building a solid foundation. That would be the norm. I have a 4 challenge in my life, and like reading instructions when I'm going to put something together is a weak point. I've learned to do it. Just read the simple instructions.
Well, it does add a sense of line up the dots on continuity when I look at being a ballerina for 14 years. Riding horses and mastering a balance technique on horses, you know, the sense of being elevated and being in balance, as well as balance as far as security. I have a penchant, like I absolutely have to own land. Like I cannot live in a condo or an apartment.
That's so 4 of you.
It's just I have.
You've got to have the 4 walls.
Yeah,
you see that,
and
stability.
the 4 lines of the 5 acres, or you know whatever the property is. It's like I have to have that. It's like if I could be falling apart as long as I have that.
Good foundations.
Yeah.
So that means that Brenda sounds like she works her life path. She's working her life path. She's using her creativity well. She's confident. And she's creating a good structure for herself in her project. She's making sure she's following the simple instructions. She's carrying through with her project. She's getting them done. I know Brenda well enough to say that is correct. She's certainly not done because we're never done. What I find is that when I've achieved something, I just sign up for the next thing, and then I have to practice all over again to apply those same principles. Although my life path is a bit different. In your life, you might find it a challenge where you get emotionally upset and you don't feel confident and you don't have the structure you need.
Well, I understand that when I am emotionally imbalanced, I get physically sick.
Yeah.
You know, it is that quick.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to repair myself, go to art, you know, create something, write something, listen to poetry. It is a balancing act for me in that sense.
Yes, and this is so important. All of these are a balancing act, actually. I mean, they all have their teeter-totter, creativity and confidence, cooperation and balance. You can see there's a fulcrum here.
Yeah.
Nobody stays perfectly balanced all the time. It's like a question of balance.
I've often reached the point with myself and my clients in that we are all damaged with something, and that is a clear indication as to what the signposts are. That it's almost a travel plan, like going to the old AAA to get a travel plan, you know, and so we're actually given the roadmap if we look at it as these are the items on the list to work through. These are the areas of improvement. These are our tests that are specifically uniquely our own. And you don't have to search too far to go outside of that to find it. So stop wasting time and get on with it.
So true. I mean, when I got a hold of this particular stuff, it wasn't just mental. I had a full body realization that I came upon a Rosetta Stone. Again, we'll go back to the beginning of the story. I'm in Barnes & Noble. I don't want anything to do with this. The voice says you're interested. Now my body lights up like a Christmas tree. I become extremely interested. It benefits humanity. It benefits me. It makes me more loving. It makes me able to accomplish what I came here to do. So was given to people throughout all. I've looked it up. It was found in ancient Egypt, in Greece, in Israel, and all these, India. There's not a culture that this was not the secret handshake.
Well, I love our secret handshake, Deborah. I'm glad that we've had a show on this on the beginning of the year. We first went through the year of the rabbit, and now we're moving into numerology, and we're going to go look at repair.
Yay.
So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I'm going to take my notes and apply them. Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Till we meet again.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
And that concludes this week's episode of the Soul Path Sessions podcast with Deborah Meints-Pierson and Brenda Littleton. If you'd like to hear more about living a more soulful life, please subscribe to our channel on your favorite podcast app, and be sure to check out the show notes and links below. For more information from Deborah, visit soulpathsessions.com, and for Brenda, BrendaLittleton.com. Thank you for listening, and remember to follow your soul. It knows the way.